They say blood is thicker than water, but what happens when that blood turns cold? When your own sister stabs you in the back with a lie so cruel it shatters everything you've built. My name is Daniel, and just 3 months ago, I was the glue holding my broken family together. Paying the bills, keeping the lights on, and swallowing my pride just to keep the peace. But then she lied. She lied, and Dad believed her. And that was the day I stopped paying for everything. It started with something small, as it always does. A missing bracelet. A gold chain with a few delicate diamonds that my sister Claire claimed was worth $2,500. It had been a birthday gift from our late mother, or so she said, though I can't ever recall Mom mentioning it, and I was with her on her last birthday. But Claire was always dramatic, the kind of person who made scenes out of whispers. Still, I never thought she'd take things this far. That morning, I came home from a long shift at the warehouse, tired, sweaty, and just wanting to shower and sleep. The moment I stepped through the door, I knew something was off. The house was quiet, too quiet, and then I saw her, Claire, sitting on the living room couch with her arms crossed and her face twisted in that smug, self-satisfied smirk she wore whenever she knew someone else was about to suffer. "Where is it?" she demanded without even saying hello. I blinked. "Where's what?" "My bracelet, Daniel. The one from Mom. It was in my drawer yesterday, and now it's gone. And you're the only one who's been in the house." I stared at her, confused. "I haven't touched your room. Why would I take your bracelet?" She didn't answer. Instead, she just looked toward the hallway, where Dad was now standing with that same look he gave me when I broke a window playing baseball as a kid. Except this time, it wasn't just disappointment. It was disgust. "She says you took it," he said flatly. I laughed. Actually laughed. "You're kidding, right?" Claire's eyes were wide and shining with fake tears. "I just want it back, Danny. If you needed money, you could have asked." I felt the air leave my lungs. There's something uniquely painful about being falsely accused, especially by someone you've sacrificed so much for. And Claire? Claire had been living rent-free in that house for almost a year. No job. No responsibilities. While I worked 2 jobs to keep the mortgage paid, the electricity running, and food in the fridge. I even covered her phone bill because she couldn't afford it. But here she was, lying to my face with all the conviction of a saint. I turned to Dad. "You really believe this? You think I stole from my own sister?" He didn't answer right away. His silence was heavier than words. "I found your hoodie on the floor in her room," he finally said. "Maybe you didn't mean to, maybe you were desperate. But if you needed the money..." I cut him off. "You think I'm desperate enough to steal a bracelet?" Claire sniffled dramatically. "I just want it back." The betrayal hit me in waves. I couldn't believe this was happening. After everything I'd done for them, for us, I stormed out of the house without another word, gripping my keys so tightly the metal dug into my palm. I drove aimlessly for nearly 2 hours, the anger boiling in my chest. I played every conversation in my head, tried to figure out how Claire had pulled it off and why Dad, my own father, was so quick to believe her. The answer, I realized, was simple. Claire had always been his favorite. Even when we were kids, she got away with everything. Sneaking out, failing classes, even crashing his car once. Meanwhile, I was expected to be the responsible one. The adult. The problem solver. The fixer. That night, I didn't go back home. Instead, I stayed at a friend's apartment. Slept on the couch. Woke up with a sore neck and a sour stomach. And as I sat there staring at the cracked ceiling tiles, something inside me clicked. If they were going to treat me like a thief, then fine. Let them live without me. Let them pay the bills. Let them handle the mortgage, the internet, the groceries, the electric. I was done. Absolutely done. Over the next 2 days, I disconnected everything that had my name on it. First, the Wi-Fi. Then, I removed my autopay from the electric and water bills. I canceled the grocery delivery account and even froze the family's shared credit card, the one I paid off every month. I didn't say a word. No warning. No explanation. Just silence. Claire texted first. "Wi-Fi's out. Did you forget to pay it?" I ignored her. Then came Dad. "Electric company says the payment didn't go through." What's going on? Still nothing from me. Then, on the third day, Claire called. I let it ring out. Then she texted again. If this is about the bracelet, I'm sorry. Just please pay the bills. We can talk about this. And just like that, her story started to crack. It didn't take long for the silence to turn into noise. 3 days after I shut off everything, the phone calls came in waves. Missed calls, voicemails, texts. At first, they were angry, then desperate, then quiet. Dad left me a voicemail that started calm, but spiraled into frustration. Daniel, I don't know what this is about. Your sister's bracelet is missing and you just vanish? You can't leave us like this. You know we need that money to keep things running. Call me back. I didn't. Why should I? I didn't owe them anything anymore. Not after the way they looked at me. Like I was some thief. Like I hadn't been breaking my back to keep them afloat for over a year. But beneath the anger, I felt something else. A quiet ache. Not regret, just sadness. Sadness that it had come to this. That family could be so blind, so quick to choose sides without even asking the right questions. I didn't have much of a plan. I was still sleeping on my friend Jordan's couch and had just enough in savings to start looking for a one-bedroom apartment. Something small, simple, mine. For the first time in years, I wanted to build something that was just for me. A space where I wasn't constantly cleaning up after other people's messes. But Claire wasn't done with me yet. On the 5th day, she showed up at Jordan's door. I wasn't even there when she arrived. Jordan called me while I was out job hunting. She's here, he said, lowering his voice. Your sister. She looks like she's been crying. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to rush back and confront her. Another part wanted to disappear entirely. But I couldn't run from her forever. And maybe, just maybe, I wanted to hear her say it to my face. I arrived 20 minutes later. Claire was sitting on the steps outside, arms wrapped around her knees, hoodie pulled over her head. She looked smaller somehow, not physically but in spirit, like the weight of her lie was finally starting to crush her. She didn't look up when I walked up. I didn't think you'd come, she said quietly. I almost didn't. She sniffed. Can we talk? I didn't answer right away. I just stood there, arms crossed, letting the silence stretch between us. She took a shaky breath. I panicked. Okay? I couldn't find the bracelet, and Dad was already mad about me not working, and I didn't know what to say. So I said you took it. Just like that. So I said you took it. Like it was nothing. Like it was a white lie she could erase with a single confession. You realize what that did, right? I said, my voice low. You turned Dad against me. You made me feel like a stranger in my own home. And you didn't just lie. You let me walk out thinking I'd never come back. I know, she whispered. And I'm sorry. She looked up at me for the first time, and there was something raw in her eyes. Guilt, maybe. Fear. Or maybe just the realization that the gravy train had officially ended. I found the bracelet, she said. It was in my laundry basket, tucked in a pair of jeans I haven't worn in months. I didn't know how to tell Dad. I closed my eyes. Of course it had been there all along, buried under her own carelessness. And instead of admitting that, she built a lie and watched it grow like a cancer until it drove me out. I told him today, she added. That caught me off guard. You told him? I asked. She nodded. He didn't say much, just went quiet. Said he needed time to think. That sounded like Dad. Never one for big emotional displays. Just silence. Heavy, oppressive silence. I looked at her again. She looked like a scared kid. And for a second I almost felt sorry for her. But then I remembered the days I spent sleeping on a couch. The look of betrayal on Dad's face. The humiliating accusation. And the way they let me walk away without so much as a doubt in their minds. I'm not coming back, I said. Her head snapped up. But I'm not coming back. Not to that house. Not to that life. She looked like she wanted to argue, but something in my tone must have convinced her otherwise. She just nodded slowly, eyes glassy with tears. I get it, she whispered. I really messed this up. I didn't reply. What was there to say? We sat in silence for a few minutes. the weight of her lie hanging between us like smoke. Then she stood up. "If you ever want to come by, just to talk, you're always welcome." I didn't respond. She turned and walked away, her footsteps echoing down the pavement. The next day, Dad called. His voice was tired, strained. "She told me about the bracelet, about the lie. I should have asked questions. I should have trusted you." "You didn't," I said simply. "I know." There was a long pause. I could almost hear him wrestling with his own guilt. "I'm sorry, son." Those words hit harder than I expected. Not because they made it better, but because I'd waited so long to hear them. "I'm not moving back in," I told him. "I figured," he said. "But if there's anything I can do." I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. I just let the silence answer for me. I didn't think silence could be so loud. When I cut ties with my family, I thought there would be relief, like escaping a sinking ship just before it went under. But what no one tells you is that even freedom has a weight. It presses on your chest in the quiet hours, especially at night, when all you have are your thoughts, your regrets, and the long, stretching road of what comes next. It had been a week since I walked away. Claire had confessed. Dad had apologized. But none of it erased the damage. None of it filled the space that opened up inside me the moment I realized I was truly on my own. I moved into a small apartment on the west side of town. Cheap, unfurnished, and in desperate need of paint. But it was mine. I bought a second-hand futon and a folding table. Used cardboard boxes as nightstands. The fridge held only the essentials. Eggs, milk, and a bottle of cheap ketchup. I wasn't living. Not yet. I was surviving. But for the first time, I wasn't doing it for anyone else. There was a strange sense of pride in that. Jordan helped me move what little I had. As we dragged a battered lamp up the stairs, he clapped me on the shoulder. "You know," he said, "this might be the best thing that ever happened to you." I raised an eyebrow. "Being accused of theft and thrown out of my house?" He grinned. "Well, yeah. Look around, man. You're not stuck anymore. No one's freeloading off you. You can build something new here, without dragging your sister and your dad behind you." I wanted to believe him. I really did. But some nights, when the apartment creaked and groaned around me, when I stared up at the ceiling fan spinning lazily above, I couldn't help but wonder if I'd done the right thing. If maybe, just maybe, I'd gone too far. Then the messages started again. It was Claire first. A long text late at night. "I miss you. The house is different without you. I know I ruined things. I know I was selfish. But please don't shut me out forever." I didn't reply. Then Dad. "Your sister's looking for work. Says she wants to fix things. We're trying to get the budget figured out, but it's tight. Just thought you should know." It was subtle. Not a plea. Not a request. But a reminder. Of course things were tight. I'd been their safety net for years. I paid the electric bill, the internet, the credit cards, hell, even Dad's truck payment for a while. With me gone, the reality was catching up. But I couldn't go back. I wouldn't. That guilt, though, it sat in the pit of my stomach like a stone. Not because I thought I owed them anything, but because, in some twisted way, I still wanted to be the one holding everything together. That was who I'd been for so long. The responsible one. The provider. The fixer. Now, I was a ghost in their house. I tried to drown the noise with work. Picked up extra shifts at the warehouse. Took on deliveries in the evening just to fill the hours. Every night I came home too tired to think, and that was the goal. But one Thursday afternoon, something unexpected happened. I came home to find a small package outside my door. No return address. Just my name handwritten in familiar, looping script. Claire. I took it inside, heart pounding. Opened it slowly. Inside was the bracelet. The one she claimed I stole. It sat on a piece of soft cloth, glinting faintly in the light. Delicate, beautiful, and heavier than it had any right to be. There was a note tucked beneath it. "This never belonged to me." I made up the part about Mom. It was something I bought last year and never wore. I lied to make it seem more important, because I didn't feel important. "I'm sorry, Danny. I really am." I stared at the words for a long time. The admission hit harder than I expected. Not just the apology, but the reason. Claire had always been dramatic, yes. But reading those words, I saw something deeper. Insecurity. Loneliness. The kind of emotional emptiness that makes people do desperate, stupid things just to feel seen. It didn't make what she did okay. But it did make it human. I sat with that for a long time. That weekend, I finally replied to her text. I got the bracelet. Thanks for returning it. I hope you mean what you wrote. She responded in seconds. I do. More than you know. Later that week, Dad asked to meet for coffee. I hesitated. I'd been avoiding him not out of spite, but because I wasn't ready to face the disappointment again. Still, something in his voice over the phone made me agree. We met at a quiet diner on the edge of town. The same one he used to take me to after little league games. He was already there when I arrived, nursing a black coffee and staring out the window like he was expecting ghosts. He looked older. Or maybe I was just seeing him differently now. Hey, kid, he said, trying to smile. Hey. We sat in silence for a while. The clink of cutlery and soft hum of the overhead fan the only sound between us. Finally, he spoke. I failed you. The words came out like gravel. I should have trusted you. I should have stood up for you when it mattered. I didn't say anything. Just let him talk. You were the one keeping this family going. And I didn't realize how much until you were gone. That's on me. All of it. I nodded slowly. Yeah, it is. He looked up at me, eyes bloodshot. Can you ever forgive me? I thought about that. Forgiveness wasn't a switch you could flip. It was a process. A long one. But maybe, just maybe, this was the first step. I don't know, I said honestly. But I'm willing to try. There's something strange about forgiveness. People talk about it like it's a door you walk through. A sudden shift from pain to peace. But it's not. Forgiveness is a tightrope. Some days you balance on it. Other days, the weight of what happened threatens to pull you off completely. 2 weeks had passed since I met Dad at the diner. We hadn't spoken much since then, but there was a calm between us. No tension. No bitterness. Just space. And space, I was learning, was a kind of healing too. Claire texted me now and then. Short messages. Updates. Little signs that she was trying. Got a part-time job at the flower shop. Sold a few old clothes online. Paid half the electric bill this month. To anyone else, these were nothing. But to me, they were bricks. Small pieces of effort laid down in an attempt to rebuild what she'd broken. I didn't respond often, but I didn't block her either. That was progress. Still, I wasn't ready to step foot back in that house. Not until one Saturday morning when Jordan, my roommate, my anchor through all this, walked into the living room holding a newspaper. Dude, he said, your dad's truck was in the classifieds. I blinked. What? He handed it to me. There it was in black and white. 2008 Ford F-150. Reliable. Minor wear. $3,500 OBO. Contact David M. My stomach turned. I knew that truck. Knew what it meant to Dad. He'd had it since I was a kid. Spent weekends washing it. Took it on fishing trips with me. It was more than transportation, it was history. He was selling it. For money, probably. And I realized with a jolt that, for the first time, he wasn't calling me to bail him out. He was doing what I had done. Finding his own way. That afternoon, I called him. You selling the truck? I asked. There was a long pause on the other end. Yeah, he said. Things are tight. Claire's trying. But I figured it was time I tried too. I was quiet for a moment. Then, that's good. I mean, not good, but it's right. I thought so too. There was a beat. You want to come by tomorrow? He asked. Just for dinner. No pressure. I hesitated. Every part of me wanted to say no, to keep the distance. But a small voice inside said maybe it was time. Yeah, I said. I'll come. The house looked the same from the outside. Same cracked driveway. Same wind chime on the porch. But inside, something felt different. Claire greeted me at the door. She looked nervous. Hair tied back, hands fidgeting in her sleeves. Hey, she said. Hey. She stepped aside, letting me in. The living room was neater than I remembered. A few candles burned on the table, and music played softly in the background. The old tension in the air was gone, replaced with something quieter, humbler. Dad was in the kitchen, stirring a pot of pasta. He looked up when I walked in. "Dinner's almost ready." "Smells good," I said. We ate together like we hadn't in months. The conversation was light, casual. Claire talked about her job. Dad mentioned a neighbor who got a new roof. I added a few words here and there, but mostly I listened, observed. They were trying, not pretending everything was perfect, not sweeping the past under the rug, just trying. After dinner, Claire pulled me aside. "I know it's weird," she said, "having you here again. A little. I'm not asking you to come back," she said quickly. "I know that's not happening. I want you to know I'm not that person anymore." I looked at her, really looked, and maybe it was the candlelight or maybe it was the soft edge in her voice, but I believed her. "People don't change overnight," I said. "I know, but I'm trying. One bill at a time. One truth at a time." She smiled faintly. "I even got a savings jar." I laughed, despite myself. "You? Saving?" She rolled her eyes. "Shut up." It was a small moment, but it meant more than she probably realized. Later, Dad walked me out to my car. "You're good to her," he said, standing by the curb. "Better than I was. I let her lie. I let her hide behind me. That won't happen again. I'm holding you to that." He nodded. "You should." I opened the car door, then paused, looked back at the house. "It doesn't have to go back to how it was," I said. "I don't want that. But this dinner, conversation, honesty, I can live with this." "I can too," he said. "It's a start." And it was. Not a full repair, not a perfect ending, but a start. 3 months later, I stood in the middle of my apartment, cardboard boxes stacked around me, the walls bare and echoing. I was moving out, not because I was going back to the house I left behind. That chapter was closed. I was moving forward to a better neighborhood, closer to work, with real furniture this time. A couch that wasn't Craigslist rickety. A bed I didn't have to build twice. This time it was mine. All mine. Jordan helped me load the last of the boxes into the truck. "Feels like the end of a saga," he said, grinning. "The guy who paid everyone's bills finally pays himself first." I laughed. "Yeah. Well, about time, right?" He gave me a look. One of those rare, silent expressions between friends that says more than words. Pride, respect, and a touch of relief. Like maybe he hadn't been sure I'd make it out of that mess. And maybe neither had I. A week after the move, I invited Claire and Dad over. Just pizza and drinks, no expectations, no deep talks. I wanted them to see what I'd built. The version of me they had never fully known. Independent, solid, happy on his own. They showed up on time. Claire brought a houseplant, a little cactus in a white ceramic pot. "I thought it was fitting," she said with a smirk. "Hard to kill. I'll take that as a compliment." Dad brought a 6-pack and paper plates. We sat on the balcony and ate, the late sun casting gold across the skyline. No tension this time, no hidden strings. Just 3 people who had survived a fire and walked away singed, but not destroyed. "So, how's the flower shop?" I asked Claire. She brightened. "Good, actually. They want to train me on inventory soon." "And the saving?" She held up her phone and showed me an app, $97. "Not much. But hey, it's something," I said. She smiled, and it was real this time. Not the deflective kind she used to wear like armor. There was peace behind it. Hard-won, honest peace. Dad helped me fix a loose kitchen cabinet after dinner. As we worked, he looked around the apartment. "You've done well, Danny. I mean that." I nodded, wiping sawdust from my hands. "It's not much, but it's yours," he said. "That's everything." We stood in silence for a beat. "You know," he added, "I used to think keeping a family together meant doing everything for them, covering the cracks, holding it all up even when it felt like too much. Yeah, I used to think that too. But I was wrong. Sometimes, the best way to love someone is to let them fall. Let them figure it out. Even if it hurts. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. We both knew what he meant. We both had learned it the hard way. A few nights later, I sat in my new place alone. The city hummed outside. I had no texts from Claire asking for money. No calls from Dad asking if I could just cover this one bill. No crushing weight of responsibility hanging over my shoulders. I felt something strange. Peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because I had finally learned what wasn't my responsibility anymore. I still loved them. That hadn't changed. But love didn't mean sacrificing your own well-being to hold others together. It meant drawing lines. It meant being honest, not just with them, but with myself. And then something unexpected happened. I got a letter in the mail. Real paper. Handwritten. Claire. Dear Danny, I know I said sorry already, but this one's different. I'm sorry not just for lying, but for putting you in a position where your kindness became a burden. I took you for granted. I confused love with dependence. You leaving was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it forced me to look at myself. I still mess up. I still catch myself waiting for someone to fix things for me. But then I remember you, standing in the living room, eyes full of betrayal and walking out anyway. That image is what drives me now. Not out of guilt, but out of respect. You showed me what self-respect looks like. Thank you for everything. Love, Claire. I read the letter twice, maybe 3 times. And for the first time since all of this began, I cried. Not from anger, not from grief, but from release. It started with a lie, a bracelet, a betrayal. But it ended here with honesty, growth, and a family no longer propped up by one exhausted pillar, but rebuilt with 3 imperfect people learning how to carry their own weight. I stopped paying for everything, but I gained something more valuable than money ever gave me. Boundaries, peace, and the power to say enough. And that was everything.